Anyway, so today we're talking about how to make money on Substack. So, we want to get your writing making money for you, paying your rent, paying your bills. Um, I was pretty good at doing that last year and hope to continue this year. You were amazing at it. But we both have common stories where we were working in other jobs and then we sort of forged out on our own and started our own businesses. So take me back to the moment where you were a teacher, right? Were you a professor? I think that's what.
I wish I was a professor. I was a college teacher,
Teacher. Okay.
but I wish I could use the term that I used to be a professor. That would be really cool.
It would. But take me back to the moment when you decided, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to start something of my own.
Yeah, so I was a college teacher for about 7 years, including how long I did it part-time and full-time. And I actually really love teaching. My story isn't like I really needed to get out of my job. I hated my job. I did start to not enjoy it as much as I used to. Like my zest for it was starting to fade, and I felt like it wasn't fair to my students that I was losing interest in the education that they were paying so much money for. But I didn't mind it. I actually love teaching. I still love teaching to this day. But I wasn't making very much money. I didn't have like location freedom. Like I really struggled through almost all of my 20s. Didn't do much travel, didn't have much opportunity, much money. And I remember my boss at my teaching job, he sat me down one day and he said, "You're never going to get promoted in this job. Just because it's not because you're not great, it's because there's no opportunity. And you actually are capable of so much more than this. I think you should start building something on the side and start like trying to find a way out. It's not that we don't want you. It's like we definitely like want you here. You're like really great in your job, but I think you need to like do something greater than this." And that was a big wake up call for me to start like thinking about how to get out of the job. I also had a partner at the time who was living in Germany and I was in Canada, and that relationship was going to end if I didn't find a way to get some location freedom. So there was a little bit of love on the line as well. But I didn't know how I was going to make it work. So I just started looking into ways to make online income. And, I just was going to do like an online community. In hindsight, I have no idea how I would have got the traffic for it. And it wasn't until I met this guy at a coffee shop who was making all this money on Twitter of all things. And he was like, "You've just promised me that you'll write on Twitter every day for an entire year. Because if you do, I promise it'll change your life." And I was like, I don't know how I'll make money. I don't know how anyone makes money on Twitter. I've never even used Twitter before in my life. So I just decided to start using it. And it was like very hard work, working a full-time job and being like basically a full-time content creator and doing free work. But that getting on Twitter slowly introduced me to new people, which introduced me to ghostwriting. And that introduced me to like selling products and things like that. And it was almost a year to the day that I started on Twitter that I quit my job to be a full-time ghostwriter.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. So tell me about ghostwriting. How do you define ghostwriting? What kinds of things do you write as a ghost?
Yeah. What do ghosts write? Good question.
Language they write.
I just thought of Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's like, did he write? I don't know if you know that reference. That's a really childhood one from me. Well, there's a lot of different types of ghostwriting that you can do. And I think about like earning as a writer, there's only two options. You can either sell products or services. And if you use writing as a service, you basically have ghostwrite books, ghostwrite social media content, ghostwrite newsletters. And those are like some of the core ones aside from copywriting. And I decided to go into ghostwriting instead of copywriting because copywriting to me seemed like you would get one-off projects and it would be very hard to make a full-time living. Yeah. And ghostwriting at the time on Twitter, when I started doing it, people were paying between $3,000 and $10,000 a month for Twitter content. Like that was just Twitter content. So I was like, okay, this could replace my job because I was only making about $3,000 a month Canadian as a college teacher, like after taxes. Like I didn't make very much money. So the idea of, holy crap, if I get one client and I can just consistently fulfill for that, like I could replace my wage.
Yeah.
So that was why it was so appealing to me. I was like, I don't need a big audience. I just need to be able to get and keep one client at a time in the beginning. And
Yeah.
that was what I was writing, was basically Substack notes. The tweets were the original Substack notes. And then it wasn't articles back then. It was what are called threads, which is like a compilation of tweets basically. And that
Oh,
was the
yeah.
first stuff that I started ghostwriting.
Hey, I see we got a comment here that I'm really interested in.
Mhm.
It's from Ray Phoenix saying, haters are a sign of success. Taylor Ben had them. I had haters for a little while now. And I can't help but feel like I've arrived. So
You've made it. Yeah.
I've arrived. Tell me about your haters. I mean, not in
Uh,
detail, but like, what
yeah,
causes them, you think?
I don't get too many. Sometimes I do. It comes in waves. The things that I tend to get the most amount of hate for, I would say, are if I talk about AI, I get a lot of hate for that. That's the stuff that people will like really go hard on me. Like no joke, I had a New York Times best-selling author tell me to put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger because I was saying that like it was okay to like use AI in the writing process. It was crazy.
Oh,
I ended up blocking her, but that one did affect me. Like when you have someone of so much prestige and like status, and she had all of her friends like messaging me and getting at me. So I had like multiple best-selling authors and like people in this like big circle. Were just like really going ham for a while there. That one was hard to deal with, but eventually I was just like, yeah, it's you get over it. I sometimes get hate too from the writing community because people don't view content writing as real writing, especially if they come more from like a university educated background or they're very into like technical prose. I think there's a tension there between people who love writing and struggle to make a living from it, doing very like technical writing and dedicating their whole life to the craft, and people who write content and the writing's not as technical, it's not as sophisticated, and maybe it's like even assisted by AI and they end up making more money. I tend to get a lot of hate for that as well. People telling me I'm not a writer. But those are the three things that I tend to get the most hate from. And I slowly learned that it's okay though, because a lot of the hate, it doesn't really come from a place of like logical arguments. It's people just like assuming things about me or attacking my identity or trying to shame me into changing my behavior to meet their preferences. And
right,
that's
right.
how I feel okay with it. It's like, okay, you hate me because you would prefer that I live in a different way, act like you, and think like you. And I don't want to conform to you, so like go ahead and hate me all you want. And that's what helps. But I'm not immune to like the hate by no means. Like there are times that I get hate comments and my girlfriend's definitely giving me a hug and I'm like, yeah, that one sucked. So
It does
that
hurt. It does hurt.
happens, yeah.
I get hate for um, promoting my boot camp and my workshop, and I get called a fraud and snake oil, and you post one picture of your daughter, and you think, I don't know, it's strange because when I left my 9 to 5, I was 18 years in the making for that move. I was a single mom. I had 3 kids. I had to raise them. I needed the paycheck and the insurance and just the stability. So that's why it took me so long to make the move.
Mm.
And probably 10 years before that time that I made the move, I had been feeling just deep down exhaustion. Like, I cannot do this. I cannot do this for the rest of my life. And, you know, and then what tipped me over the edge was I got a pretty serious illness where I became paralyzed. I had to learn to walk again. Um, and that was right before I decided to make, it was a couple of years before I decided I can't do this anymore. My health is, more important, and I just reprioritized everything. I was like, my kids are more important. I want to spend more time with them. They're adults now. I got to be able to have, like you, more mobility,
Hmm.
to be where they are and participate in their lives. So my whole premise is, building this portfolio of paychecks. I call it, the multiple income streams. You have your newsletter, you have your teaching, your course, your digital products, just the whole like portfolio, right, of businesses. And the reason I I want people to do that is because I don't feel like anybody should rely on one paycheck anymore or one client.
Mhm.
I did, and at one point I was laid off after 10 years at a Fortune 500 company. So I'm like, I have a strong urge now that I've kind of come out of the other side, out on the other side, where I want to help people achieve a safety net at least. If you're employed, fine, but build something on the side. So if you get laid off and you're in your 40s or 50s, you're all of a sudden considered overqualified, right?
Mm.
Because you you know too much, and they'd really rather hire maybe cheaper, younger talent. So, um, I come from a good place in doing what I do, and that's so when people hate on that and call me fake and snake oil, whatever, I feel really upset about it because they don't know me at all. Somebody restacked one of my notes and
Mhm.
rallied a whole group of haters that were making fun of me on the thread, and I was like, "Oh, no,
Yeah.
they know they don't understand me at all, So, but like you
Yeah.
said, gotta let it go and move on. Um, it's just the way.
It and it is tough. Like, I empathize with where you're coming from because even if it's misplaced and like, hearing your story and your content, like, I think your story is really inspiring in the fact that you did it first from a place of security and you have a family. Like, there's so much, um, a responsible approach to that, and then when you get so much hate for stuff, like, even if it's not true and they don't know you, it's still hard not to, like, consider it at least. Like,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean,
it's painful.
what what I what I teach works because I did it, and I've taught other people how to do it. So anyway, moving on. How are we going to make money on Substack from our businesses in 2026? What are you seeing?
Well, I don't think it's really much different than how it always has been. I think that people on Substack, unless they've come from some of the other platforms, they just I wanna say that the culture of Substack hasn't talked about it as much as other platforms. So, it's always like if you wanna make money online, the only 2 ways to do it from a first principles perspective are products or services. So, services, you exchange your time for money. Products, you create something once, you sell it multiple times. Services are the best place to start if you want to make like big money and actually quit your job, in my opinion, because you can do consulting. So you can just, do coaching calls. You could do ghostwriting, copywriting. You could write other people's newsletters. I'm from the writing world, so those are the main ones that I stick to. But even if you were a programmer, you could do code. If you were, I'm trying to think what else off the top of my head. Those are the main ones I can think of. Maybe like landing page or website design. You could do remote sales. So that would be like a service based trading time for money. And what I like about them, you can charge high prices. Like my first ghostwriting client paid me 3,000 a month. And we have
Yeah,
had ghostwriting clients that have paid us 12,000 a month was the most that we ever got from one client ghostwriting, which was like ludicrous for me at the time. Still is. I'm like, I can't believe somebody paid that. That was insane.
yeah, that's awesome if you can get it. Um,
Those are rare though. I haven't had very many of those. To clarify,
yeah,
I'm not like a big shot. He's closing like 10G clients all the time. That's not me.
I'm
Um,
adding I'm adding fractional CMO to my service category, but
nice.
that's not something that's just going to be another income stream for me for 2026. Um, you know, but yeah, I mean, so I'm at a point where I want more time to do more things because I was in a building phase for quite a bit of 2025. I built, if you look at my Substack, you'll see what I built. It's kind of a lot. And in fact, I had too much stuff. And so at the end of last year, I kind of dialed everything back and I said, what's working and what's not? And I kept only the things that are working. So that includes my digital products, which sell really well.
Mhm,
I have I have one done with you service. Well, and then a pseudo done with you. So I have
mhm.
um, my done with you is people who maybe are working and just want to cut to the chase. They want to set up a Substack, but they don't want to, um, have to do the research and figure everything out. And so I have a 4-session, I call it the setup sprint. So I kind of hold their hand through the process, and
Mm.
it's 4 sessions and we get most of everything set up. So that's one thing that people really like.
Wicked.
Yeah. And then I have, I have a clarity call. It's just an hour clarity call. And then I have a Substack audit, like audit your newsletter thoroughly, look at your strategy, ask you about your goals, and see how you're meeting those with your publication setup, and then provide a video. So I've had a couple people do that.
Nice.
They really liked it. Yeah. So, I think there's innovative ways to start with some of these lighter touch, that either services or digital products that people can start to earn money even if they're working. That's,
For sure.
I know a lot of people in the 9 to 5 space are my clients, and they're just trying to build something because they don't want to do it till they're 65. So, yeah.
100%. I agree with you there. Like, it always comes down to like what stage of the process is the person at. Like if someone is really new and is like, I don't even know if I can make $1 online, like they haven't proven that to
Oh,
themselves yet.
yeah.
I would say you need to do like a micro offer. A paid newsletter is good for that, even at $5, just to like show yourself like, whoa, that money has come in. Or selling a really low digital product or something like that, like a really cheap one, sorry, for like $20, $50, like that can be good. And that'll like get the belief going. Now you're like, this is possible. And then for people that
Yeah.
want to make like a full-time income, I personally recommend they go to service before trying to make full-time income on products, because people underestimate how much traffic they need to make like really good money consistently with products. And after being in the online space for, this is my 5th year now, I know very few people who sell digital products and make a full-time income and like always hit their revenue goals sustainably over years. It's very
Yeah.
rare. So like you do need other products in there. And that's why I recommend service. And then you layer products to get some of your time back, like you were saying, where you're like, oh, I want to have more time. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. Like you've built up the audience. You can start doing products. And then if you have like a little bit of upsells on top of that, you don't need to sell as many products because the service on the back end will do well. And that's like kind of how the ecosystem plays out to go full time. So it just depends on like what stage people are at and what skills they have.
Yeah, exactly. I'm monitoring the comments here. We got a lot of stuff on the haters.
Okay. We're back to
Thanks,
that.
everybody. Thanks, everybody, for your kind words on that. Um,
Thank you.
so we had a comment. I'm new to Substack. Someone said, write my journal notes in here and share my products here. And they're thinking about starting a podcast like you guys are doing. Yeah. I mean, it all comes down to being really clear about what you're offering, like
Yeah.
ghostwriting, right? You know, helping you build a portfolio of paychecks. It's
Yeah.
like, it just comes really down to being really clear about what you offer. And then that's like the root of your tree. And then the tree grows up and it has branches. That's where you build the other things. But I'm not going to kid anybody. I did mine super fast. And it's only because I have a marketing background. I know social media really well. And I know how to do these things and use all different platforms and tools. So, but really it's a marathon, not a sprint is what they say, right? So it does take time. You want to build everything well so that it's sustainable. And once you start to put systems behind things, that gives you freedom. So systems, automations, uh, like at first I was manually moving my subscribers from Substack to my CRM. Okay, well, yeah,
Yeah.
exporting a spreadsheet every month, putting it, so once I figured out that's a lot of time that I don't need to be spending, I automated that through make.com. So I always tell my clients, you got to look at what are the big buckets? The big buckets are the things that you can outsource, the things that you can automate, and the things that you absolutely have to do. And so I feel like every time I build something or offer a new offer, I have to look at the system I'm using and put it into those three buckets. So,
Mm.
yeah.
I like that. It's a good way to think about it. When we're talking about systems, like at least I always try to boil stuff down to first principles because I think a lot of people are always teaching like tactics. Like someone in here was mentioning a podcast. Like, oh, I need to start a podcast. My thinking is, what principle like does the podcast like derive from? Like, why would we do it? And podcasts are like trust builders for conversion, to increase like trust to get sales quicker, move people through buying cycles quicker, build more relationships. And then when you're talking about like systems, I'm like, oh, what's the principles of a system? And I think leverage, right? Like leverage
Yeah.
allows us to get our time back, our energy back. And then I think capital, code, cooperation are like the three things you can do for systems. So like capital, I have
Yeah.
money to pay other people. Code, which is like what you're talking about, automations and stuff like that. Or cooperation is, do you have other team members who can help you? I like that you're thinking that through as well. How do I buy myself like more time back? And then for any of the beginners listening, that's not the first step. That's like step 2 or 3. You'll get the time back after it's built.
First step is work like crazy, get it figured out.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you can look at the three buckets or the three categories, like you said. So I like that. I really like that. That's a good view, a different view, but similar to what I was saying. Um,
Yeah, very similar.
so what do you use? What kind of any systems you want to share?
Um, yeah, like I have systems for different things. Right now where I'm at with systems, because AI can do so much. It is insane from like a solopreneur, one person business perspective. Um, it is crazy that like one person can make so much money with the help of like AI and things like that if they can use it well. But AI can almost it can do like too much for you and you can stop thinking. So my
Yeah.
systems,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a problem. Like I want to stay sharp and I want ideas to come from me. I want to make sure that like I'm still making decisions and using judgment. So my systems tend to be derived from, how do I use AI to accelerate the process while not outsourcing my thinking? So when I sit down to write, I need to do the outlines for my drafts, and I use AI to help me with that. I use it to push back and say, "Oh, you've made a leap of logic. You've like, this part here could be framed to be more interesting," and it's trained on knowledge bases that I create on how I like to think through content so that I know it's thinking in the way that I want it to. But I still do the thinking, and then once AI has helped me with the outline, I personally actually don't write a lot of my stuff, even though I'm a writer, funny enough, is I speak it.
Oh
Because I used to
yeah.
be a college teacher. I'm used to articulating. I think more
Yeah.
clearly when I can speak. So usually once I have an outline, I just turn on like voice dictation and I just speak it as if I'm doing a lecture, and then AI will just reduce any of the redundancies. And then after that, I'll go through and I'll actually edit it and I'll read it back to myself and things like that. So that's like one system I use. And then there's like a bunch of other more technical things on, just automations of reminders and stuff like that. But I think if people are working time jobs and they're trying to build a business, the main systems that would give them back the most time would be helping them write content and like frame ideas in an interesting way, as well
Yeah.
as building like systems of operations and processes and knowledge bases. Like, if you're working with a client, you want to have like a curriculum to go through or a flow. Like AI can really assist you in building those things out for clients and whatnot, which I think is great. So I'd say those are the main ones I recommend to people who are starting.
Yeah. When I started my marketing business, I started doing email marketing for clients, and I was
Mm.
building the systems while I was serving the clients. That was a really tough time. And I think that's the way you have to do it though, because, everything from how I track what I did, how I do the reporting back to my clients, that kind of thing. Um, you need a system for all of this, or it's going to be just chaos.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it does take some time to develop them. Um, I do see kind of a question here for you. Monique says, I'm a longtime journalist with almost 2 decades in newsrooms. I was laid off recently. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. And it feels like the turning point. Let me hear. Okay, awesome. So, what groups have you had the most luck with in terms of ghostwriting clients?
The question is like what types of ghostwriting clients, right? Like what avatars, basically?
She said groups. I don't know. Maybe she means, yeah, maybe avatars or industries.
Yeah. I would say like the most in demand things are ghostwriting clients are usually in business. So it's founders or business people that they just, even if they know how to write content or they could use AI, they don't even want to think about it. That's their pain point is I want my focus back. I don't want to think about this. I just want results. I want someone else to write it. Those have been good clients. Health and fitness and wellness coaches are probably, I would say, the easiest ones to get results for because the amount of people that the content is relevant to is a lot. And it's not the hardest stuff to write unless you're in like technical biohacking. But those are really good clients. Like a lot of our most profitable clients are in the health and wellness space. Psychology can be good too, but there's a caveat here. So I think writing for psych clients is incredible, but the psychology industry is like lagging behind the other ones by like a decade. I swear to God. Like
Yeah.
psychologists just have no idea that they can just go online and get clients. Like there's so many of them I talk to, like they don't see the value in like posting on platforms. So when you do find one that is like, oh yeah, like I definitely I would love to like get more clients from LinkedIn or something or
Mhm.
Substack. Fantastic. Like those are amazing clients to write for. But a lot of them are very resistant to it still, but I think that'll change over the next like 3 to 5 years. But those are the three niches that I personally like the most and have a lot of demand.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So, how do you feel? This is a controversial one that keeps coming up in my realm. Because I have people that do similar things to what I do, not quite the same, but similar. And I hear them saying, "Oh, you don't need a niche. You don't need a niche." So that's like, should we niche? Should we not niche? I have some thoughts on it, but I'm going to let you give me your thoughts because you're kind of niching with what you just described. I mean,
Yeah, like it the true my true answer to this is like it depends on what your goals are, but a way to think this through that I've found useful is a niche is just a group of people. So it's essentially who are you talking to? And you can niche into pain points. Like you can just say, I'm going to talk about these pain points, but I'm not niching into identity. You can talk to like a specific label, founders, students, if you want, like 20-year-olds. So you can do that. You can niche into interested in a topic because it's just a group of people at the end of the day. And I think a lot of the niching advice works. It just depends on what your goals are. For example, one of the most like common things like you are the niche, which is essentially don't niche, like you are the niche. You are the niche works if you are in the group of people that you want to write to. So when people say write to your past self, solve your own problems and sell the solutions, that's what you are the niche means. It means there's a group of people that I'm in and the problem is like they want to lose weight and I like lost a bunch of weight and I want to help other people do it. So the product or service or like the transformation that you provide people is the same transformation that you provided for yourself. So you are the niche. But
yeah,
that advice doesn't work if you're like a ghostwriter and it's like, hey, you are the niche. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm writing for founders. Well, actually, no, I'm not the niche now because I'm doing a B2B service. So that's why I
yeah,
say it just depends on the goal. Like, yes, you can be the niche essentially if you sell info products to people who are who you used to be or who you are. You are
yeah,
not the niche if you do like B2B services and the people that you're writing for are vastly different than you and you need to communicate to them different than the way you communicate to yourself to attract them. That's how I think about it, at least. How about you?
Um, I like that because I think you are the niche applies to personal brands more than services, right? You're building,
Mhm.
for me, I'm building on Substack, this sort of a personal brand, if you will. Um, Even though I do offer a mix of services and products, but it's direct to the end user. So my other business line, one of my streams is very niche. It's B2B services in the MSP space, in the IT services industry. So that's super specific. And
Yeah.
I do a great job with that. I just kill it because it took me years to develop the level of expertise that I have in that space. And when you do B2B like that, you have to understand their customers' pain points in order to do any marketing that is going to reach their customers. So I've always liked the niches. It's worked really well for me. I
Mhm.
think I told you earlier before we went live that while I was in my 9 to 5, I always had sort of a side hustle going on. My first one was I was a mobile notary and I only did
Mm.
loan closings and refinances for mortgage lenders. Very specific niche. And the reason was because how I fell into that is number one, I worked for a financial services company, so I knew a lot about it. And number two, um, the people I saw the need, right? People who work need a mobile notary to come after hours to their home to sign their documents. So there was
Nice.
a huge need for that at the time. So that was my first, and again, when you niche or when you offer anything, it comes back to what's the pain point? What are you solving for people?
Yeah.
What do you have a lot of expertise or knowledge in that you can provide that will solve one painful problem for one person? That's how you always start. And that's how I started. And then from there, I was actually able to save enough money after my kids grew up and were raised. I did mobile notary for years and years to buy an apartment complex. But I didn't just buy any apartment complex. I chose Class C housing. So Section 8, um, and I picked the right location for that as well. Again, I had lots of expertise in this area from my financial services days. So I was able to use all of the data points that I had studied over the years to pick a market, pick a neighborhood that was up and coming. It wasn't going to be Section 8 forever. And I eventually sold that after a few years to an investor because the neighborhood
Nice.
was changing. He wanted to remodel the whole thing and revamp it.
Mhm.
So it, it worked better than I planned. I didn't
Mm.
anticipate that area to up and come so fast, but we had the pandemic and everything changed. So I've always loved the niches. They've worked really well for me personally. But
Mhm.
I think there's dimensions. It's like a Rubik's Cube to the niche, right? You can go by demographics or you can go by industries, but the bottom line is you have to have some expertise there.
Yeah. Or learning in that domain. I heard this an interesting frame from someone that was like, there's two types of creators or brands. You're either the student or the master, but you're never in between. And I just think it's a great frame because when you approach niching and how you write content, it changes how you view authority. 'Cause a lot of the students that we work with are like, I don't have authority yet. Like I can't say like the same things that you can say. So it just paralyzes them and they don't write anything. But when I look back to when I started at writing and I decided to talk about writing, I didn't like English in school. I never studied English in like college. I wasn't a writer. I was like, okay, if I'm going to niche into writing, I just need to start learning about it and I need to share what I'm learning along the way. And I didn't frame things like I was an expert. I framed it, hey, I read this book and like this is my takeaway from it. Hey, like I
Well,
tried this today as an experiment and this worked and this didn't. And like over time, I developed my own models and became more of like
yeah, but
an
that's
expert.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's building in public, they call it. So, you're building in public. That's another great way to build a business. and build trust with people, right? You're being transparent. You're showing them outcomes, being real honest. So I like that. Let's see. I thought we had another question. Um, where'd she go? Oh, Kimberly, I would definitely like to start a paid portion of my newsletter that will continue to pay me through 65. But I first need some traction on my free newsletter. I'm new to Substack. Well, Kimberly, I think you're in my boot camp next week where we're going to do that. So that would be perfect timing. I'm pretty sure you signed up. So raise your hand if you did. I'm sure that was you. We're going to go over all of that. You will have a really good foundation. And then
Amazing.
Ray says, how do you know what to sell rather than guessing? I don't know.
Yeah, you basically market research. I try to think, how do I answer this question without it being overwhelming? There's like a few different ways to do it. Like, I'll give you like the beginner answer, which is like, what are other people selling? And just do your own version and sell that because it's validated. So that's like one thing to do. And just do it scrappy, see if you can like get some sales. And I think as like a beginner, you have to just kind of like test stuff and see what works and talk to customers and see. Like talking to people is like the number one way. I had a business coach once where I was trying to figure out what my next product was going to be. And I was just sitting on it for like a month, being like, I don't know what to build. And then he goes, how many other people have you talked to about this? Like, how many 15-minute calls have you done just interviewing people, asking what they want? I was like, well, I haven't done any. He's like, well, don't ask me a single question until you've done 50 calls, which is like insane, right? Like 50 calls is a lot. But his point was basically like, why don't you just ask people what they want? So like, yeah.
That aligns with my answer. Yeah, Substack's really great because it has a chat. So if you have a publication, you have a chat. So my 9 to Thrive chat, I go in there a couple times a week and start a conversation. And occasionally I will ask people, what are you struggling with right now? Let's help each other. And that's the first goal. But it also gives me information about where people are getting, where are the sticking points that I can maybe help people get over by offering some kind of masterclass or a mastermind group or just, something to help them. Maybe it's just a newsletter issue that I write about it, but I'm always polling them. And in my newsletter too, there's a poll feature. You probably used it. Yeah. So if you're not using it, for anyone who's just starting, when you're writing your newsletter, there's one of the navigation buttons at the top. I think it says more actually. You go to more and there's a poll. You could just add a poll to your post. So those are really great for getting feedback. Yeah. So, and then for Ray, where were we? Oh my gosh, there's so many people. Okay. So hopefully we answered that question about how to get kids on what's right. So yes. Amy Shaw says, how do you ghost write in your client's voice?
Yeah. So the I'll tell you the hard way that we used to do it. So whenever we get a new client, we always book a call with them immediately. We used to call it the Joe Rogan interview, where we would just have a bunch of questions. We'd have already researched pre-validated topics that are in their niche that are likely to do well. And we just want their perspective on it and how they speak it and what their language is. So we would, ask them questions and basically interview them for the whole time. And then we would get a transcript. And the long way was we used to read that transcript out loud before every time we sat down to write for that client until the client's voice was in our head. And I could try to think like the client. Sometimes I would even archetype it, be like, oh, this client kind of reminds me of like Gary Vaynerchuk or something. I'd be like, how would Gary say this? And that would get me close enough that the client would be happy. Nowadays, you have AI to help. So if you interview them and you have the transcript, it's less about writing in their voice and it's more about how do you just frame the ideas more persuasively with good hooks. So as long as your interviewing skills are good and you're asking them the right questions, because good content and good writing is essentially just the tension between question and answer anyways. So when you're asking people questions, you have to ask them questions in the right order to get answers in like the way that you need them to write the content. And then if you get good at that, the content kind of writes itself and you're just like lightly reformatting stuff and jigging it and whatnot. And that's how you can write in their voice with AI helping you because you have the transcript.
Yeah. AI is more trainable than ever. You just kind of have to know how to do it and then test it and revise and test it and revise until you get it the way you want. But it's really more trainable than it's ever been. It's just improving, every year. So, um,
Scary fast.
it's very fast. It's just very fast.
Yeah.
So Monique says was a journalist. She says, "Thank you. I'm also having trouble identifying what people would actually pay a journalist to teach them."
Mm.
I mean, I can see right away you could teach them a lot of things, maybe about interviewing people. How do you conduct a good interview? The different types of interviews for different types of people. And then, really just anything about making your newsletter good or your whatever it is you're doing, whatever writing you're doing good. I was also a journalist in another way long ago when I was in college and then fresh out of college. So I see where you're coming from. But here's the thing, Monique. It's like somebody told me this the other day. If she's listening, I'm attributing this to you. But she said, it's like you're in a jar and you can't read your own label on the outside of the jar. So you have all this knowledge inside the jar of things you're good at and things but you haven't been able to bring that up and distill it into something that people would want. Because the label's on the outside of the jar and you can't see it. So it does take some soul searching and again, go out and ask people, um, you know, do some market research. That's always a great way. See what other people are doing, other journalists are doing. Maybe maybe you're the next Katie Couric of Substack. She's on here, and that's pretty cool that I'm on the same platform as Katie Couric. But maybe you just do some interviewing and newsletters about current topics. There's a lot you could probably do with that. So don't give up. You have value. And it's just that you can't see it right now. Anything to add there?
Like journalism is a good credential for like multiple kinds of writing, ghostwriting and things like that. Some elements of like research and whatnot. The process that I would do is I would just go into ChatGPT and be like, I'm trying to figure out like what types of like offers or ways that I could make money independently. Here's the credential that I have. Can you ask me a series of interview questions to help me uncover my skills and knowledge and credentials that would help me make money in like an online space, and then just kind of keep getting AI to ask you questions to uncover that, and then help you try to find initial directional like ways that you can look for market demand. That'll at least get you like started on the next step. So that would be a process I would do to get started, and then once you start exploring, you'll figure out the rest.
I forgot about that because early on I did do that. So my business today looks nothing like it did 2 years ago in terms of what I'm hoping to teach people. So at first I wanted to teach people marketing. Then I wanted to teach marketers how to use AI. Then I wanted to just maybe teach about writing with AI. And then I decided, no, that's not really, I can't see myself doing that forever. What I really love and I'm passionate about is this idea that everybody should have a second stream of income, at least one. And so it took me a while to get there. Yeah, definitely. So I feel
exploration process. Yeah.
Yeah, your main topic will always be evolving and you can always change it, right? According to what response you get. So
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I see someone saying here that like ChatGPT loves to validate. I totally agree. Like that's one of my biggest gripes with AI among like its hallucinations and whatnot. But like as long as you're aware that it has a bias to like validate you, and you can even, ask it not to, and it will still validate you, but just be aware that it's kind of like over validating you when you
Yeah.
get your answers. Yeah.
Somebody was asking, hear more about pricing products and services. That's that's um that's a whole hour session. I don't know. Do you have any? It's seriously what I teach in my boot camp. So that's 3 days of 90 minutes a day. It's not all on pricing,
Yeah.
but it's on building offers and things. So
Yeah, offer building it definitely takes time. I try to think of like what's a good like simple directional answer for someone who's starting out and is like, I'm not even sure what the next step is. The simple answer is if you're finding things in your niche that like other people have built, just price it similar to them among similar deliverables as a good anchor starting point. Like, is there a lot more to it that you could do? Yeah. It's like, what are the outcomes? Am I able to get people those outcomes? Am I adding guarantees, reversing risk, like shortening time horizons? But as a really simple like starting point, because I think a lot of beginners will get stuck on something like pricing and be like, oh, I didn't launch this week, so I can't figure out what to price it. It's like, just literally look what other people are doing, price it similar, launch it, and then go through like the iterative process to try to improve it. But that's one of my like big mottos is like don't learn by studying, like just learn by doing and do things really quickly. So like just whatever's going to help you not get hung up on a small detail and allow you to move. And like I'm saying this from example here with my paid Substack, like I'm hoping that this will be the week I get my 100th paid subscriber. We'll see. That'll be my celebration moment. But when yeah, thank you. When I launched it, I there was no launch strategy, there was no plan. I literally woke up one morning and was like, "Maybe I should do a paid Substack," and I had it launched 2 hours later. Didn't even think about it. And then as I went through the next, like, month, I changed so many things. I was changing how I framed it, I changed the welcome emails, like but I
oh
didn't
yeah,
wanna get held up on anything. I'm like, "We need to launch this in the next, like, 2 hours or by the end of the day," and that was what I did. And that has like really helped me in my business is how do I just like get this out ASAP and then start like iterating to fix all the bugs and stuff. And people might think it'll ruin their reputation or their brand. Like I have not found it to be the case.
yeah. Oh, you're a little more scrappy than I am. I'm an overthinker. I just plan and think. I actually rewrote all my welcome emails over the holidays and just like I was like, "Oh, burn it all to the ground. It's not performing like I want. Let's start all over." Like, I'm kind of
Yeah.
that way. I
And to be honest, I'm actually like very similar, which is why I started like adopting this habit. And it's because in the past, this happened, I think, not last year, the year before. I spent like 6 months building a product that almost no one bought, and then I had to like start from pretty much scratch because I was so off base, like so off
yeah.
base, and that was so painful to me that I was like, I'm just never gonna do that again. And now I just try to do things a lot quicker in like the smallest MVP version before I like continue to build on it because otherwise I overthink it like crazy too.
You think some of that may have come from you're the product building for a younger version of you sort of thing? Because I do that too. And I'm about to tell everybody here, your first product will suck. So you might as well get it out of the way and just get it out there. Get your first digital product out. Don't count on any sales. Keep asking people what they think. Learn how to market it, right? There's a huge marketing component to get selling digital products. There's a guy named Anthony who's like the master of that. You follow him,
Yeah,
but
he's great.
he's another one I need to bring on a live. If you're out there listening, Anthony,
He would do it too. I've done a few talks with him and stuff. He would definitely do it.
he's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we're going on a long time here. Anything else you want to talk about? We got a few more questions or statements, I guess. Um,
Yeah, we can answer these
journalist
questions.
journalist take on how to expose your ex. There's a journalist. investigative journalism. I mean, that could be interesting because there's so many new tools now, to use to investigate people. I'd like to know how to interview people. Okay, yeah. I think I'm. Do you see any questions we're missing?
I see some a little bit further down. I think Monique's asking with a follow up about, would it be risky to incorporate my how to conduct a killer interview in tandem with personal vignette about raising a toddler and the adaptive leadership lessons tied to it? Like, I can't answer that question because I don't have the market data on every single offer you could do because I try to stay in my lane kind of around writing and creativity and things like that. But I would just go and actually see if you can find other people's products on like conducting killer interviews. Like, can you
Yeah.
validate that there's more people doing this? And if not, that's a sign that it might be too difficult for like a beginner business or something that is worth like starting now that you don't have like years to dedicate to try to make it work. So I would just that's my take. But what do you think?
Okay. Well, I'm interpreting your question as, can her newsletter focus on multiple things? And I'm going to say, I would prefer you didn't do that. I would suggest you didn't do that because,
Oh, we have different answers for that.
well, because if I'm subscribing to Monique because I love her interview techniques and I want to get better at interviewing or whatever, these types of things that she'll be talking about professionally, I don't all of a sudden want to read an article about, how to tame 2-year-old tantrums or something. That's going to be so off base for me that I'm following her because of the interview stuff. So that's why I tell people, um, pick one. Be very clear about what your publication offers. Now, if you wanted to start another publication, now you can do sections in Substack as well. Maybe you put another section there. Those act as mini publications. So you could possibly do that too.
Mhm.
What's your answer? I want to hear what you said. We're different. So I say.
Yeah, well, I think both of our strategies work though. Mine's not like a contradiction of yours. It's just a different way of thinking about it. And I'm actually creating a product around this. So I've thought this through like quite deeply and experimented with it myself. Is you can, if you arrange the multiple interests into a hierarchy of importance. So I agree with you that if people follow you for interviewing skills and that's like the transformation that you're providing, that is the primary thing that needs to be talked about. But while you're talking about interviewing, there's actually no reason you can't weave in things about like being a mom and being a toddler, and you can make those brand associations to add more dimension to your brand. So to me, it's not like you have to niche into like one thing and only talk about that. It's just you need to be known for one thing, but you can actually weave in multiple interests in ways that make sense to like support points or to add personality to a piece.
Yeah,
Um, so like
true.
I'll try to make this even like a bit more tactical too. Like for example, something that I'm very passionate about is actually nervous system regulation and mental health, but I don't really talk about it because I'm more about like writing and creativity and building business. But as I've built my business and become a writer and taken it more seriously, I have actually found a lack of regulated nervous system impedes my ability to grow my business. So my primary entry point is like, I'm trying to write consistently, but for some reason I can't show up. And then I actually go into how nervous system regulation was the solution to the problem of like having too much negative emotions to show up consistently to write. But I'm still making an appeal to writers, and it's actually about an entry point or a pain point that my audience cares about. But then the thing that I use to like actually talk about it is different than what they would expect. And my argument would be that that makes your writing really interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So hopefully we answered that. Al is Al's one of my students, by the way. He took a couple of my
Okay.
courses. Yes. When asking ChatGPT to maximize SEO, do you trust the results? Good question.
I don't even have an answer for this. I'm going to defer to you.
um, so because I sort of have an SEO background for marketing, I kind of know what we're looking for. So I will give very specific instructions if I do it that way, to check other sources, to look for search queries and search terms plus keywords. I don't just say, give me the keywords for this. I want it to do some research first. And sometimes it comes back with pretty good stuff. And other times there's a piece missing. So for SEO, I mean, obviously, you know, I actually revised my whole SEO strategy too this month. But I'm looking for people looking for stuff on Substack because that's my primary platform. So let's say it gives me SEO without the word Substack in there in the title or the meta. I'm going to add that. So take it with a grain of salt, use your judgment. If you have a tool like Moz or any of those other ones, you can go there to check. You can go to Answer the Public and look at what people are searching. That's a great way to do it. I actually do that very often for finding what is somebody actually typing into that search bar related to my topic. And then that is where you could start with the SEO. So, yeah, that's my answer.
That's a great answer. I did not have one for that, so you crushed that one.
Some say use personal stories, and some say don't. What do you think? I think it helps to use personal stories.
Yeah, I've never heard a good argument against not using them, but again, I just for the way I think, I'm always like, what's the first principle of why would we use a personal story? Because using a personal story is a tactic, and you would use them to get yourself on the page to show that there's a human behind the writing, that there's a perspective. So yeah, you can use personal stories to do that, and that can work. But if you're someone who doesn't want to share personal stories, just share more of an observation or a perspective as well, as long as you're getting yourself on the page.
I think the idea or the principle behind it is we're trying to get people to know us. If we have a personal brand, we want people to subscribe to what we're saying in our newsletter. We want people to know, value, and trust us. Whether or not they buy from you, but that is who people do buy from. People they know, trust, and value. So personal stories are a great lead-in for that. They get to know you. Then they see value in what you're talking about. And if they can relate to you and you're more relatable, all the better. That will bring them in further into your world and then sort of build that relationship. One thing I was going to talk about with you, and I know we're really over time and you're probably tired.
It's okay. It's only 2 p.m. for me. I can keep going if we need to. I don't have a
I don't know if our audience is bored yet, but one of the things I did want to talk about is, one of my themes for this year, one, simplicity, which I already wrote about in my newsletter, but the other one is collaboration. I feel like 2026 is going to be a year where we need to collaborate more with other people and just sort of build the community a little stronger through things like we're doing now, through lives or guest posts, through your chat community. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, collaboration is an accelerant for growth and opportunity. So if we're talking about getting visibility, because collaboration is a visibility tactic, there's 3 ways to do it. You either write or create something so good that algorithms show it to people. You can comment or engage on other people's stuff that makes your thing visible, and then people might check you out, or you collaborate in some form. And everyone I know of who has grown quite big on social media or created a lot of opportunity for themselves has collaborated in some form throughout their journey. So I would agree with you that collaboration is essential and a really good accelerant. And it's one thing that a lot of accounts are undervaluing.
I think so too. Yeah. So I did something kind of regrettable. And I didn't write about it. I regretted it, but I didn't regret it. I actually went through my subscribers and removed almost 1,000 that hadn't opened anything in a month and had zero activity, or 6 months and had zero activity. It ended up being more like 900. I did a little re-engagement campaign, but it has taken me so long to recover those 1,000. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not sure I'd do that again. But what it did do is it boosted my open rates pretty significantly. So that was a good thing. I have more engaged people now. Um, my subscribers, but I just so would be way farther along on subscribers count if I left them in there. But my core service is email marketing. So I'm always very hyper aware of
Mm,
reputation, sender reputation, deliverability. I kept being told my emails were landing in the spam box of people, even people who
mm.
registered for my courses. So yeah, I got real concerned and I did a big SEO kind of cleanup, and that was part of it. Hmm. Would you ever do something like that? I know you got a few more subscribers than I do. Thousand
Uh,
now.
One of the most controversial notes that I ever posted actually was I did this 2 months ago. I purged 4,000 subscribers off my list.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
But for the same reason, well, similar reasons, but I've been growing my list for like 3 years or something. So I've had people on there for like a long time that aren't really engaged at all. And it was, I didn't mind as much when I was just using something like Beehive, but when I moved my list to Substack, it became like a status symbol of success. Like, how many subscribers do you have? And when I would look
Yeah.
at my open rates and see that such a large amount of them from being on the list for so long weren't opening it, I felt like I was being disingenuous to people on Substack where they would look and be like, you're at like 10,000 subscribers. And that didn't feel right to me. So I purged 4,000 and I put a picture of it in a Substack note and ended up going quite viral. And people were like debating in the comments on like if it was a good thing. And they're like, what the hell? Why would you do this? But it just felt like authentically right to me. Like
You're
I
the
sat with it for like weeks before I made that decision. I'm like, I just feel like I need to do this. And
same. You're the only other person I've talked to, and I'm sure there are others, but that has done it, and that many too. So I mean, kudos. It's scary.
it is scary. Yeah.
Very
I
scary.
I ended up actually getting really lucky. This is not like manufactured, like this was truly luck, but I ended up writing a newsletter that got me 5,000 subscribers and I like basically jumped back up to 10K and it was just like pure luck. But it was like right after I purged my list and I'm like, maybe God does exist. You do the right thing and the world rewards you. I'm like, maybe that's what that was. I don't know. But yeah, I'm happy I did it.
Well, I picked a bad time of the year. So I did it right before our Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. So
Yeah.
I took time off. I wasn't engaging with people. I had family out in and so and then the Christmas holiday came and I did the same kind of thing. I just took some time away and didn't pay a lot of attention to Substack. So I really shot myself in the foot by my timing alone because now I'm much more engaged and active. But there was a few weeks, literally, at a time that I just didn't engage much. So you don't grow when you don't engage. I
True.
find,
Yeah.
unless you have a banger of a newsletter like you did.
Yeah. You can get lucky. You either got to have like a lot of like hard hitting like notes. Like I find social proof notes actually convert to subscribers like a lot if you
Yeah.
post like metrics and personal stories, but they don't always hit. You remind me, my phone is gonna die soon, so I have to go like pretty soon here. But
I have to go
um,
too. It's been fun.
yeah, this has been really fun. But yeah, all of a sudden this is just gonna cut, and I'm just gonna be out of here. I'm at like 2% battery.
All right. Well, we're going to end it then. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you guys have questions, you can go ahead and find us, I guess, in the DMs on Substack. But I'm going to for any of you asking about paywalling or building offers, I'm just going to drop my link to my boot camp. It's just camp.carrieloringer.com. Let me spell it right. So that's next week, actually, already. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time next week. And these are really small groups. I only take no more than 10 people. So we do really personalized work and really help you get going on your paywalling, your pricing strategies, what you're going to offer behind the paywall, and then building out your your whole value ladder. So it's going to be good. Lots of good resources come with it, email templates and all that stuff. So let me share that. And then Kaylin, thank you so much. This was so fun. Always good to hear your perspective. We have a lot of similarities, but you look at things differently than I do. And I love that. Helps me think differently.
I love it too. I love when there's contradictory information and stuff that I can now sit with late at night, unable to fall asleep because I have to, rectify these contradictions in my head. So thank you. It was a fun talk.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the other side.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Join our chats. Bye.